Hello, I'm Michelle Staggs, Executive Director of Kmac Museum, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our second annual Vernissage. In a world that is moving faster than ever, Kmac has an increasingly important role to foster cohesion and understanding, bringing together diverse perspectives and viewpoints. We take seriously our work to contextualize Kentucky artists within a larger contemporary art ecosystem. This evening's program will continue that effort, highlighting conversations with artists from our fall exhibitions, Brooklyn-based Jordan Nasser and Louisville artist Ramona Dallion-Lindsay and her collaborators. Especially important at this moment is our critical thinking and action as one of Louisville's oldest cultural institutions. What can we do towards healing our city and revitalizing our downtown? This evening, by taking part in this virtual Vernissage, you are part of our efforts to continue to serve and inspire. Thank you. I hope you will find something in this program that interests you and perhaps even delights you and causes you to want to learn more through some of our additional virtual or in-person programming. Sit back and relax as our amazing event chairpersons and board members, Chris Welsh and Debbie Huddleston Mitchell, guide you through this virtual Vernissage.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Kmac's Vernissage 2020. We're so glad you could join us tonight and spend your Friday night a little bit with us. And tonight's theme is going to be celebrating community through craft. And I think that you will see that through all of the various features we're going to show through this hour. So I hope you can stay with us through the whole thing. But first and foremost, my friend Chris Welsh here is going to explain to everyone the fancy French term vernissage.
Hello, everybody. So I just want to say welcome to Vernissage. This is our second year for Vernissage. And last year we had a great time. It was a sit-down dinner, and we hope someday to get back to having a sit-down dinner. So this year it's 2020, and things are a little different. First of all, we apologize for the slight delay. We hope that you had a little patience with us as we come in tonight. So this year we're coming to you virtually, and we hope you enjoy the show. But I want to explain, what is a vernissage? Everyone asks that.
It's not a skin treatment.
It's not a skin treatment, no. So vernissage actually dates back to the 18th century when there were private art viewings for the major collectors and for benefactors of galleries and museums. And it was the night before the exhibit opened, and it was the last day that the artists would varnish their paintings. They would actually apply a shellac to protect the paintings. And so the French word for varnish, somehow it related down through the years to varnish, vernissage, and vernissage became the event the night before the exhibit opened. So that's what a vernissage is. So tonight we're celebrating art, and we're celebrating the artists that we have opening tomorrow here at Kmac. And it's going to be a fun night. We hope you enjoy it. And if we have any more technical difficulties, we hope you'll hang in with us. If things get really bad, I think I packed my tap shoes, and Debbie has her flaming batons from high school.
Definitely, always with me.
We'll make it work. So so Debbie's going to tell us a bit about what's happening tonight.
Okay, so tonight what you're going to see is we're going to feature the two exhibitions that are coming up here in the museum. You're going to get to hear from the artists directly. You're going to hear from our fabulous Joey Yates to tell us all about the exhibitions. We're also going to be featuring some other special things that are happening down here in Kmac Museum all of the time, and we are looking forward to you enjoying that. Plus, we have some very special patrons that have enjoyed Kmac Museum through the years, and we get to take a sneak peek into some of their private collections, and we're hugely grateful for that, and I think you all will enjoy it.
And we also want to let you know that if you want to post questions or comments on the YouTube channel as you're watching tonight, we might even try to answer a few questions and comments, and hopefully they won't be too nasty.
We're definitely going to do that.
And we're definitely going to answer some questions.
Yes.
And if we don't know the answers, we'll just make up something really good.
So now, on with the show. And up first, you're going to hear from Joey Yates.
Hi everyone, thank you Chris and Debbie. I'm Joey Yates, the Curatorial Director here at Kmac. And as Chris and Debbie mentioned, we have two exhibitions opening this fall. Both have a lot of connection points. There's lots of themes among the two that I think as the shows go on we'll be able to talk about and explore, but the main one is this idea of community. So there's an exhibition by Ramona Dallion-Lindsay, and friends that we'll talk about a little bit later. But first, we're going to talk about this scene that I'm sitting in right now, which is an art installation of an apartment by Jordan Nasser. And his exhibition actually opens December 5th. And this is just one component of his exhibition. He's really well known for his embroidered landscapes. And so the name of the exhibition is The Field is Infinite. And it'll explore and look at his work in embroidery and glass, and particularly the landscapes that he likes to create. This apartment is something that he made while putting on a show in Tel Aviv. And all of the objects are kind of inspirations to him because he does look at the foundations of craft, particularly the foundations of Palestinian craft, which is sort of his cultural heritage. His sort of father is Palestinian, so the work all kind of delves into his cultural identity. And one of the main things he does is embroidery. So he's inspired by this traditional style of embroidery. And all of the objects in the apartment were commissioned by other artisans and craftspeople in Palestine and Tel Aviv to make really an entire apartment. And all of the things that you can have created all throughout the Holy Land, from Jerusalem, from Tel Aviv to the West Bank, all throughout the area. So everything you see in the apartment was especially commissioned and requested by Jordan to make this installation. Because he could not be here, he was planning on being here with us tonight to talk about the exhibition, we were able to do a virtual studio visit with him. Myself and our education team were able to talk about his work, some of the ideas he was going to explore. And so what we're going to play for you is brief portions of that virtual studio visit. And this first one is specifically about the apartment and how he, beginning in some ways with these embroideries, was led to other people to make wicker baskets or to make glassware. And so he's going to kind of go into that a little bit. So let's play that first clip.
Little things were happenstance. Like I would poke around in Jaffa, the little streets, and you'd come across little workshops and be like, what are you making in here? And end up finding a metal worker or like the guy who makes brooms or whatever, you know? And so, and you know, some of it was like the guy who makes, I had a guy who in a kibbutz in the north who makes like big bamboo structures. Like he'll make sukkah, like for Sukkot, like a little tent kind of thing, whatever. So he made me curtain rods, and he made me like a freestanding clothing rack for my bedroom out of bamboo. But in telling him about this project, he was like, oh, my wife makes like woven baskets out of like date leaves. And I was like, amazing. Some baskets. And so she ended up making me some baskets. So it's like, it was very much an adventure like that. And that was the idea. Excited, but I found there was like a Russian guy who didn't speak English or Hebrew and had a woman with him who spoke like broken Hebrew with a Russian accent. And he was working on a flame and making little figurines and stuff like that out of glass. And so I got to stand there and be like, can you make me a green one of these? But like with you know, like this many of them, or like whatever, you know, kind of like on the spot, give him little, like, you know, I want an elephant, but I want it green. And then he makes that, you know.
Like David Lynch directing his scenes.
Exactly. And then it's like, and he actually made me a candle. So he had on that table that day, like a little thing for like votive candles, but it was like a little candelabra thing with like legs and like little flowers hanging off of it. That was like all red and pink. And I was like, can you make me one of these that's all just green and white? And like clear glass. And so then I went back the next week to pick it up from him, but he made me one of those. So that's in the apartment. So it was really just stuff like that. So in that sense, though, it's like this is a guy who is currently living there. So therefore, this is now a part of the craft of that place, you know, and represents that population or that, you know, that immigrant population.
So now we're back, and we're back in Jordan Nasser's amazing installation on the second floor at Kmac, and we're sitting now in the kitchen area. There's an entire one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of Kmac now, which I think is pretty fabulous. And we just want to talk about some of what Jordan has done here. I mean, the amazing thing is that everything you see is handcrafted in this exhibit. It's pretty unbelievable. Tell us about something, Joe. I mean, like, tell us about, what is this?
So this is a, a very specific object to this exhibition because, as I mentioned, the embroidered pillows helped inspire the embroidered landscapes that he has become known for making and that will be featured also in the exhibition. Because of this apartment installation, he discovered a whole bunch of new crafts that he now is using in his practice. And so these glass beads from Hebron, which is an area in the West Bank known for its glass, I kind of compare it to Murano and Venice. They're really well known for the glass production. So these are, you know, glass beads that get put onto these little metal wire armatures, and they're like a wall sconce or something that might hang on the wall. He is now making sort of landscapes out of these glass beads where different colors may be, like the sky or the sea or the sun. So they look much like the embroideries. And these were things that he discovered as he was like traveling around, finding people that make baskets and finding people that make textiles.
And amazingly, he's making the glass beads. He's not buying the glass beads, he's literally making the glass beads.
Yeah, and is that the same with that musical instrument over there?
So that's an oud, and that was, I think, like a refurbished. He did find a guy who makes those guitars, and he found like an old one and had him kind of refurbish it for the sake of the apartment, so that, like, you know, this apartment really is about if he were to have been able to grow up or develop as an artist, as an adult living in the area, this might be his apartment. So everything was made green, for example. That's like an artistic sort of flourish that he put on all the objects, as well as asking the artisan or the vendor that makes it to kind of tweak it a little bit, so it's like slightly different than what they would normally produce.
So the green is something that he chose. It's not something that would necessarily be typically representative if we walk
It's
into
an artistic choice.
It's an artistic choice. I mean, there's some things that might have a natural green color, but there's other things that he specifically wanted green, and that was one of the kind of twists that he would give some of these artisans. Like, oh, well, I know you usually make that in that color, but can you make it in green? Because he knew he was putting together this art installation.
And what about the tile? I love a tile backsplash.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? What about this? Is this made by artisans?
Yes, I mean those
different
are
artisans. Or?
Well, it was made by, you know, someone that he found, you know, that makes traditional tile work, and he knew he wanted to make a kitchen and use it in the kitchen. So these are all things that he constructed or thought about as he was developing this installation. And one person would lead to another person. Like, he would meet somebody and they go, well, you know, my wife or somebody I know makes this. And then he goes, well, I have to meet that person. And so he went and he would request something from them.
And the designs on this table, I know our viewers probably won't be able to see it, but when you come downtown, you can see it. Anything to know?
I actually was really, you know, I've seen photos of this installation and the same when it arrived. I actually was not aware because of the carving, so that's something I'm looking forward to learning about in the next couple of weeks before we open the show.
I mean, for our viewers, this is all designs carved into the wood. And I guess we're sitting here touching art, which we're never usually doing at Kmac.
You're never allowed
And I
to
don't
do
think the
anything.
visitors will be touching the art, right?
I don't think so.
Shoot.
But you know, I think when this was originally installed in Tel Aviv at the Contemporary Arts Center there, you know, a lot of the artist talks and a lot of the events would happen in the space, and people would kind of be sitting on the furniture and talking. This was pre-pandemic, so for lots of reasons, it's probably a good thing people, you know,
True.
You know, stay off of
Sure.
work.
For
But-
safety's sake, we won't be
for safety's
touching the
sake,
art.
yeah.
But it's really a privilege tonight to be here.
It is a privilege to
Sure.
be here. And I also, I mean, when you come down, Jordan has made these amazing windows in Kmac, which are beautiful views through wrought iron rails. It's really quite
Yeah,
something.
there are actually images he took with his iPhone of the mountains
His
in
iPhone?
Palestine and the Mediterranean Sea in his bedroom.
Nice.
It really is cool. So, do you want to introduce our next video?
So the other segment from that virtual studio visit really talks about his embroidery work and his glass work. And the glass work is very new. It just recently sort of premiered in his show in New York City last month, and so it's very new work. And in this video, he talks about those specific ongoing projects that he's doing.
Jordan is based in Brooklyn, right?
He's based in New York. Yeah.
New York, in New York.
Mhm.
Cool.
So yeah, play the next segment.
Can we see what you're working on now?
Sorry, I'm like basically I'm working on these glass works where I'm making all the glass beads that you're aware
Oh,
of.
is that what you're doing?
Well, I'm actually, this is a metal frame from there is one of these in the show that is covered in green glass beads. And this is one that I took apart. I reused the beads, but I also needed the beads as sample beads for different glass makers that are making beads for me, as well as I'm making the beads myself. Anyway, but I figured since I have this frame, I'm cleaning off all this old wire so that I can use this frame as another piece. So I'm just like, it's busy work.
Yeah.
Just preparing it. But actually I can show you, but so basically this is the original glass thing I got in Hebron, and there's one in the apartment exactly like this, but the beads are all attached with wires, like one at a time onto these metal frames.
So no glue or anything like that?
No, it's literally just glass and metal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been making literally on a flame in the glass studio my own beads, which you can see here, different colors. But they're literally like they have like a little nub that you wrap the wire around. That's like based on how the Palestinian ones are. And so I've been making like this kind of landscape motif
gorgeous
things out of that. And they're all attached. There's like all these crazy wires in the back. But I kind of love that because it kind of shows how it's made.
Does it take you to attach those, Jordan?
Sorry?
How long does it take you to attach?
It's actually a little faster than you would think. Now that I got the hang of it, you can see here my little table. So I like take all these spools of copper wire and I cut them up into like little strips.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sit and I like attach them one by one and kind of build the shapes that I want. And then the glass studio is 2 blocks from my house, and I've been going there between 2 and 4 times a week. And so right now, like, I stopped working on this one because I realized I need a different color for the sky. So like next Monday and Tuesday, I'll make the sky beads for that one. I have a metal worker friend who's making all these frames for me. So he's been like working on things like this that you can't even really see it, that I can I'll use as sculptures.
big.
But yes, so there will be some of these. And these works are the first kind of offshoot of so like basically because of my exposure to the different crafts in the apartment, I've started to want to work with some of those materials. And this is the first foray into like not embroidery work, but I tried to be a craftsperson about it. I've learned how to make the beads myself. I inspected and like learned how they assemble them. And I've, basically doing that as a craft more so than like a ready-made sculpture thing or something, And then in here, since we're doing a tour, you can see my this is the room of finished work and also storage racks and stuff like that. This is an embroidery that I haven't done yet from Palestine. So it's huge, it's 9 feet long. And so you can see it's embroidered, and then this is not embroidered, and I will insert my landscape into these empty spaces. And obviously you can see these are done. So as you can see, this part is done by the Palestinians, and then this is done by me. These are for the show at James Cohan next month. And because of COVID, I only had these 3 larger ones, and then everything stopped in February, March. So in the meantime, I made a series of small ones that kind of go along with this split in half motif, but don't have the Palestinian part. So you can see they're much smaller, but they have the same motif. So these all exist because of COVID. Otherwise, the show was going to be all like this. And then in like late June, we were finally able to get back in touch with the women, get fabric to them and stuff. So we managed to get 2 made this huge size in time. So there will be 2 like 9-foot ones in the show, and then all of these you see here, and then the glass works.
Hi everybody, it's Chris and Debbie again. And, well, first of all, of course, thank you to Jordan Nasser for sharing your art with us. I hope everybody comes down and sees the exhibit. It really is amazing, and it's just so creative. And how often do you see a one-bedroom apartment in a museum? But beyond that, it's the perfect combination of craft and art, which is Kmac's mission altogether. It's really great, and I love it. I think you will too. So why are we wearing aprons? That's a good question. We're wearing aprons because we want to take a minute to tell you about all of the home crafting opportunities that you can have delivered to your house as, well, mainly as activities for your children, but really some of this anyone would enjoy. And you can actually order these online and they can be delivered to your house in time for the holiday break. And there's each box that you order, it's $60 for a box. And they have everything in the box that you need to make these 3 in each box.
Yes.
Here is a really cool thing where, like Jordan's art, you can do some needlework and sort of make a sampler. Here's another really cool thing, which I think is probably based on the idea of Jordan's art as well. And you can literally make this bowl. I can't imagine how you do it, but it's sort of like string of some sort, and you glue it and paint it, and it's very cool.
They're going to give you lots of instructions.
Yeah, there will be lots of instructions. It's easier than the way I'm describing it,
Yes,
probably.
it's not going to be interpreted.
A really cool holiday wreath with some sort of bits and bobs on it. And then this is a really cool thing. If it has water in it, it's a snow globe. This one doesn't have water though. But it's a really fun thing for the kids, and they're available online. So it's just a fun activity.
Yes, which brings us to thinking about the education programming that happens here at the museum. A very important mission that we do throughout the community, and the way that the education department has tied in the exhibitions this year is really interesting. So you just heard from Jordan, and it's very craft-based, all the artisans and craftsmen that he put together to create his exhibition. And so the education folks are doing the same thing with some of their programming. One of the things they're doing is they're going to have kind of an interpretive space on the second floor in the back, where they're going to say, okay, if this is what we come in and we see, if you're of Palestinian origin or from that area of the world, and that's what craft and craftsmanship is to them in their location, what does Kentucky and our surrounding area bring to that conversation? And so there will be pieces there that represent what we would see here for our craft. And the other interesting thing they're going to do is, if you're at home and you take pictures of certain pieces that are important to you in your living space and environment, and you send them into the museum, they are going to kind of curate those and create an interesting magnet wall, so you can be involved at home in this exhibition as well.
That's cool. We also want to point out that there are field trips for schools available, and they can either be live field trips or pre-recorded field trips, but definitely that's a huge thing, field trips for Kmac, and so they're still offering those, even though of course we've gone to non-traditional instruction. And there's a first for Kmac. They've actually now acquired a mobile tour app, so you can have an audio video tour of these exhibits either at home, or if you come to the museum, you can use the app while you're in the museum and get more information on what you're seeing. It's very cool.
Very cool, big time. So with that, we'd like to send you to our next video segment, which features our art collectors, our private art collectors around the area that were so generous with opening their home and discussing the works that Kmac Museum exposed them to and inspired them to add to their collection. So thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy it.
Enjoy.
Matt Ronay is the sculptor here, and he's actually from Louisville. He did this performance that was so out of the box. He sculpted all these wooden pieces. It was like a magical forest. I mean, here I am in Louisville, and it just felt like the most interactive downtown New York kind of vibe or whatever. And I couldn't believe that this person was walking around in like he looked like a forest person. I didn't even know. It was some sort of ritual. And I was like, PA, like, what is this? It's crazy. It's wild. And he's like, I went to school with this guy. I can't believe it. Like, so it was this kind of really interesting community, but yet such a sophisticated piece.
I never heard of Summer Wheat until you had a show of Summer Wheat. And as a result of that, I went to her studio in New York. I got to know her. She was here because of her show at Kmac. And I ended up buying one of her largest paintings.
Marlon Griffith is the artist's name. He is from Trinidad, and he was asked to come and do an installation at Kmac. And the piece was called Cloud, and it was a large hanging installation of about 25 or 30 of these elements. And he came to Kmac and sat upstairs on the 3rd floor and cut all of this out on site and assembled these and installed them. But they're very ephemeral. I mean, it's just made out of paper. And you can see there's a bird shape in it as well, but it's also a mask and a hat.
I joined Kmac for a tour of William J. O'Brien's studio and actually other people's homes also in Chicago to view just some incredible art. But we were really taken by William J. O'Brien's ceramic and bronze works. It was just an amazing experience. He has his own absolute signature style.
I'm so glad to call Joey a friend and have gotten to know him over the years. He has really introduced me to a lot of artists. This piece behind me, actually, is a piece that I bought from an artist family after it was shown at the museum. There was an exhibit of Gene Spatz's work. Gene Spatz was a paparazzo back in the 70s in New York, but he has local ties. His sister, Amy Lowen Spatz, lives here in Louisville. Amy's daughter is a friend of Joey's, and they ran across this archive of Gene's photos from the 70s New York scene when paparazzi weren't like they are now. I was introduced to Letitia Quisenberry. She did a series a few years ago called Little Darlings. They look like Polaroids. I have a light box of hers that she started doing a handful of years ago. But Joey introduced me to her.
This is 21C Art Storage, and we're in the underground below the Louisville Zoo. And we found it to be really useful for our storage. It's an important place. It's all categorized, and if I come down asking for something, somebody knows where it is, most of the time. So this is a piece we bought at Kmac 6 or 7 years ago, I think. But the artist is named Gary Monroe, and he's from Knoxville, Tennessee. And it's about snake handling, which of course is an activity that takes place in Appalachia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. So I think it's an interesting connection to the origin of Kmac, the Kentucky art and craft movement, and the culture and the rituals of East Kentucky. He was a painting student at U of L, and then later got a scholarship and went off to Brooklyn. So he's painting, still painting every day, but I think he also is working as well. I love the fact that he's started with us and making a career of art.
Hey everybody, thanks to all the people who just participated in that and opening up their private art collection in their homes to us. We are so grateful. I think that we all really enjoyed seeing what Kmac has contributed to all the various collections around our community for all these decades. And now, Chris and I are here to tell you about the shop.
The reason we look a little silly is to tell you that Kmac shop is open and ready for many, many shoppers for the holiday season. And we're carrying everything you can imagine for gifts. We have ceramic dogs. We have beautiful pieces for women like this scarf, jewelry, necklaces, sunglasses, earrings. Turn around. A fabulous sort of a backpack with sort of a really mod print on it. Finger puppets of your favorite artists. I have, my boy Keith Haring. I have Frida Kahlo, fabulous Georgia O'Keeffe, my boy Dali, Andy Warhol. We have everything. We have handmade hats. How's that for attractive? beautiful scarves made of cashmere, Christmas ornaments, a huge selection of Christmas ornaments all over the store, and beautifully displayed, I might add. We have amazing things from the Onshaw project, like this throw. We have throws and pillows from Onshaw, amazing locally made products. We even have Kmac branded items. This is a really great blank book. Art is the big idea. You can do all of your drawing and all your sort of art ideas there, or notes, whatever you want to do. Beautiful homewares. Here's a great tea towel with the state of Kentucky on it. Beautiful homemade bowls, handmade bowls. All sorts of home goods here, jewelry, tons of gifts for kids. The shop is open during museum hours from 10 until 5, Tuesday through Saturday, right?
Wednesday through Sunday.
Wednesday through
But you know
Sunday.
what? Frenchie told me that.
Yeah,
so.
Frenchie the bold hog, yes.
And Frenchie also wanted everyone to know that if you feel like having a personal shopping experience,
That's right.
call Julia Comer down here at the museum, and she would be happy to accommodate you and a few other of your closest friends in your pod and have a safe shopping experience.
Or if you'd rather shop online, they'll also do curbside delivery, so that's another option for you. So come on down, Kmac Shop. Everything you can need for the holidays.
Yes.
Oh wait, I forgot to mention one more thing. Kmac also has handmade masks from Onshaw, from the Onshaw project. They're beautiful and useful, and you can buy all your mask supplies here at Kmac. So now we're going to throw it to Joey Yates, our curatorial director, who's going to be interviewing with Lance Newman, who is the head of our Kmac Poetry Series, and Lance is going to be offering up a reading of his own piece.
Hi, this is Joey. I'm here with Lance. Lance, we've been doing the Poetry Slam now for 6 years.
Always give us less time. I always say like 4 or 5, but we're going up to 6 years, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd like to first start by just asking how you got into, spoken words, poetry slamming, or the whole scene in general. If you could maybe talk briefly about
I went to college and I worked for a nonprofit called Greenhouse, and what they did was take poetry into schools and community centers and nonprofits and stuff like that, and they taught poetry. So I would do work for them, but they were also big fans of the Southern Fried Poetry Slam, and they always sent a team to this competition. It's like a invitational, right? Like a tournament for the southeastern region of poets. We hosted Southern Fried in Louisville in 2017.
Some of it was here.
Yeah, some of it was here in Kmac, and then we will be hosting Southern Fried here again in 2021. So that's something to look forward to. I knew they took me to the ocean. I always call it the ocean because I was in the pond, and in Louisville I had been performing since I was 13 years old. So like I felt like I was a big enough fish there. But then they took me to the pond, and I saw how Poetry Slam was conducted on a national basis, and I fell in love, and I was like, I have got to bring this back to Louisville. So as soon as I got done with college and came back to Louisville, I put the feet to the ground and started creating a poetry scene, a poetry slam scene. Change it. And that's kind of one of those things that I came to grips with, and kind of not even came to grips with, but I found solace in. It's like the changes for the better. We're 6 years in, right? It is a regular art consumption. It's a regular watering hole, I like to think, right? Because the demographics that come into the Kmac Slam are varied and wide. It is probably the most diverse program that I've seen anywhere in the city, not even just like under this roof. So it's like, I've always been happy about that. I'm so glad that people are coming to the watering hole and kind of taking their sips. With the new pandemic and just how things are going now, it's very interesting how people are consuming their content, and I think that we've got a plan.
So what are some of the changes coming to the Kmac Poetry Slam?
Well, for right now, we're focused on a series. All right, it's going to be like a public art series of poetry in general. So you have half Bob Ross teaching you how to create a painting, right? So half poetry workshop, and then half poetry feature, where we feature different poets that may not have the notoriety that other poets in the city have. Just some of those poets you don't know, but they're like amazing, and we're going to give them that time to feature. So this is awesome.
Thanks,
Here's to
Lance.
Kmac.
Any other final thoughts?
Nope. Get to work, everybody. We have work to do. Get to work.
Thank you.
The wisdom of Solomon whispers in my lungs. My tongue, a tool for scripture. My mind had drew a picture that looked like the chalk outlines of an I feared for my life victim. My depictions are more Decepticon, like Judas dressed in an atom bomb. I would keep my enemies close, but their explosion could do me harm. So if we ever fall out, know that I am prepared for the winter. Know that my resolve doesn't splinter. My art of war comes from the center. You can't look over Leonardo or ruffle this Raphael. You can't look down on Michelangelo or take the chisel from Donatello. Oh, I'm sorry for the bells that are residing in my throat. I had smuggled them in, like the bells they made from coke. In my country, you can get killed from speaking the truth and selling hope. So what spoke may be illegal, but that doesn't mean it's not dope. Have you ever tried too hard to write a poem? Trying to come up with lines that define your mind, but you keep coming up with Facebook statuses. I've been there. I've seen bare pages tattooed with art they didn't know the meaning to. So how inked up are you, poet? What pictures are you trying to paint on my mind's ceiling? Because tourists look up at masterpieces, but can't relate to how you went blind in the process. But I know what it's like to study the sun and be burdened by its light. I've posted up on writer's block where self-amplified words created deaf poets. Can you hear me over the ego machines that produce pompous speakers that won't accept my makeshift CD as tender? Soapbox preachers that think their sermons are frankincense and myrrh. I used to be God's gift too. I followed 5-star notebooks to a land of milk and honey and found it to be sour and sticky, and they still don't know who I am. So allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Lance Newman, but you could replace the last name with Armstrong or Bass, because I live strong in sync, plus I'm used to having pressure on in a world class of poems. I feel landlocked, because I forgot why I got into this in the first place. I was told you should always write in your own voice, but mine is filled with insecurities, incorrect spelling, slanted sentence structure that are potential prophecies that couldn't make it out the first round. Contemplation has turned to competitions, where cliches learn how to define themselves on stage and in front of mics. Slam scores be having poets questioning their own thoughts, second guessing their blessings, cause viral or going viral reflects importance. And I'm still in the trunk of my car. Somewhere between the free rap demos and the albums of my peers. All my life I tricked people into believing I was smarter than I really am. I played an intellectual adolescent who didn't believe in learning lessons because I was too busy teaching them. Didn't believe in reading scripture because I was too busy preaching them, but now everyone's waiting for me to live up to their expectations. Fulfill my potential and drown the procrastination out of my actions. Stop treating life like it's an attraction and make something happen before you end up like your uncle. I'm starting to sound like my mother. And the pain in her truth is repetitive, and I walk around with a smile as if denial was a sedative I inherited at birth. I mean, you tell me what's worse. Performing at the baddest show even though you know it won't change. Become a link in the chain until Russ replaces your name with optional, or performing at the baddest show when deep down inside you know that this passion was made for the profits, but it isn't profitable. They say you get a job you like, you'll never work a day in your life. And I love the stuff out of this poetry gig, but inspiration is expensive.
Thanks so much, Lance, for coming down and joining us tonight for Vernissage, and thank you for sharing your art with us. The Poetry Slam is such a special part of Kmac's programming, and we really appreciate you being a part of the Kmac family. And so now, why are Debbie and I dressed in white in November?
It is a mystery. That or April, either one. As you know, what does all white or shades of white mean at Kmac Museum? It means it's couture season. And we had to go virtual this year. Obviously, 2020, we made a an amazing virtual movie called Kmac Star Step, which is available on our website at kmacmuseum.org. It is only $15, and you can support the museum in that way, and we would really appreciate it. And thank you to Lori Davenport, who chaired this year and had to learn on the fly about creating a movie with these amazing wearable art pieces. And as you know, there is nothing like seeing them in person, so they are on display here at Kmac Museum. If you come down while the museum is open, and you can look for yourself and really marvel at what these artists can create and what their process is all about.
And they'll be rotating as exhibits, so there will be different dresses changed out. So eventually all the couture dresses will be shown from this year's movie during this period, and this will be closing in January.
So thank you so much for supporting Kmac Museum and Kmac Couture and all of our fabulous artists.
So next we're going to throw it back to Joey, who's going to be interviewing Ramona Lindsay, who is an amazing woman, part of the Kmac family as well. And we look forward to seeing her exhibit opening soon.
Hello, welcome back. As I mentioned earlier, we have two exhibitions opening this fall. The exhibition by Ramona Dallin-Lindsay and her 5 collaborators actually opens to the public tomorrow. And as I mentioned earlier, also the two kind of main themes, or the main theme that sort of unites the two, there are many, but one that we've been focusing on this evening is this idea of community and building a community through art and through craft. And Ramona is, I guess at her base, she's a textile artist. That's sort of the foundation of her art practice. And what she's created on her 3rd floor is an installation using her background in textiles, particularly quilting. And she's created this sort of photographic mural textile piece with these 5 photographers. And looking at parks, cultures and stories, and how those sort of revolve around land and sort of disputes over land, which is another interesting connection between Jordan, whose work is really based in the foundations of Palestinian craft, all of which also is centered in a region that has its own sort of conflict around land. And so this is another reason why I think these two exhibitions are going to work really well together. We have a video with Ramona that our board president, Teresa Beams, recorded, interviewing her about her project. And then we have another video with some of those photographers talking about their experience of working with Ramona's prompt to go into these parks. And I'll let them sort of describe sort of the basis of how these parks were chosen and what Ramona was after in putting together her exhibition. So go to that video, please.
I'm 22 years old. I'm in my last semester of college at U of L, and I've been a photographer for about 5 years. I use two different formats, primarily film and digital. For this project, I use digital, and just diving more into the process of how I photographed and how I photographed for this project. My desire was really just to keep things simple. Every place that I went to, I spent some time just walking around and feeling the space and feeling the vibe and the atmosphere. And then from there, just taking a simplistic approach of documenting, not trying to force a narrative or create a certain type of story, but just really documenting the space as they are. And I mostly focused on space and less on people, just really highlighting the layout of the space, the area that the spaces were in, and just different aspects of the parks.
I'm here in the middle of the beautiful Shelby Park in the Shelby Park neighborhood. I chose this park because it demonstrated for me one of the starkest differences in how space is used in this city because of the nature of the demographics that utilize this park. As we know, Shelby Park is in a gentrified area, so there was a time when people wouldn't want to come to Shelby Park because it wasn't safe, which there are still some remnants of that in this park, and I demonstrate that in my contribution to the exhibit. There's some very beautiful things in this space, but there are some very real and ugly things in this space as well. The impact of this entire exhibit, or for me anyway, was being able to look at this city through a lens, literally and figuratively, of privilege and oppression, which is ever present in our society. But one of the things that I noticed is the ways that space is used, and the way that people interact with one another in these spaces. I'm a lifelong Louisvillian, born and raised. I'm the daughter and the niece of photographers, also the daughter of a historian. So this exhibit was really, really personal for me because I've been raised to think of the significance of the history of the spaces that we occupy in this city. At the same time, I'm an artist, so seeing the world through history and through art is the cornerstone of my practice.
I've been a photographer for about 5 years now, on and off, and COVID has promoted me to full-time photographer. I was really excited to be asked to be a part of this project. I'm not from Louisville. When I actually saw the parks, I was actually very surprised that these parks had such decay. Like, nobody cared about the parks. Ben Washer Park has not seen a lawnmower. Not even before COVID. It had to be years that it hasn't seen a lawnmower. The swings were locked up. The community building that's supposed to be there looked like a good wind could take it down. And I was so shocked because I went to a different park, also owned by Louisville Metro, and it was about to get its second playground built. There was nothing wrong with the first one, just having an additional playground that's being built. It's like, okay. Went to another park, didn't even have a label, didn't even have the sign that says what park it is. So it was eye-opening. It was an eye-opening experience. Not gonna lie, I was very saddened by it, by some of it. Some of the parks were beautiful, and then some of the parks were not. And I was very honored to be able to take those photos, because the photos in color, you see all the pretty flowers and you forget that I'm taking this picture of a decaying building in the city of Louisville, in a city park.
Hi, Ramona. Teresa Beams.
Tell me how Landis came to be.
I have always believed the importance of land and access to land. I think that our culture and who we are is tied to land, that if you don't have space to be fully human, that there's something oppressive about that. During the pandemic, I started doing more walking in different parks. The first park I went to was Iroquois Park, and I went to Iroquois. There were barriers up so people could have the full road to walk in, bike in. And I was like, okay, this is cool. They're giving us space to do whatever we need to do in this park to release. But then when I went down to Shawnee Park and Chickasaw Park in Louisville's West End, there were police cars blocking the entrance with armed police officers in the cars. And I was like, am I supposed to be in this park? Why are they here? And so it was different by having a barricade block at Iroquois Park, but then police officers with weapons sitting in cars blocking entrances at the two major parks in Louisville's West End. And then I went to Seneca Park, and there were so many people in Seneca Park doing whatever they wanted to do. I didn't think there was a pandemic going on. And I got a little scared, and I was like, should I even be in this space? And that was one of the reasons for inviting 5 artists to visit 20 different parks, because I wanted to see if they saw what I saw. And I wanted specifically to invite Black identifying photographers because I wanted it to be seen through a Black lens. And I think a lot of the images that I have seen of Louisville's parks have not been shot by Black photographers. So I wondered, would their view be different? The artwork, I call it Landis Parks. It's a 8-foot by 32-foot, what I call visual quilt. And the borders of that quilt really, I think, help us to think about culture and some of those systems that we intentionally and unintentionally take part in to keep in place systems that are inequitable. When you walk into this bright yellow and orange space, you're hit with joy, but then when you look deeper, there's a lot of hurt and harm, and that has to be addressed. Our park systems are struggling. So what are we going to do as a community to advocate for more of our public dollars to go to making sure these spaces are well maintained and well resourced? I'm hoping that this exhibition will help lead to discussions where people are thinking about what they can do personally to take care of our public spaces, because they are all of our spaces. Land is, parks, culture, stories is my part, my one step that I can take to hopefully begin some discussions and some dialogue and action, because we are tied to the land.
We are of the land. We are all connected.
Yes. Yes.
That's a hopeful place to thank you so much for this, Ramona. And I'm so happy to be working with Kmac at a time where we can have these meaningful conversations and work with artists like you who fearlessly bring these things to light that we must explore and get real truthful about, you know? So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And I'm thankful for Joey for inviting me to do this work at Kmac.
You're very loved by Kmac, Ramona.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to Ramona and her friends for doing such an amazing exhibit. I cannot wait to go upstairs and see it when this is all over. And we're so happy to have Ramona back in the Kmac family for a while. And now there's something else we'd like to talk to you about for a few moments, and that is the Kmac Vernissage raffle tickets. And we were trying to think of a really clever way to market these that might grab some attention, and Debbie had a really great idea.
Yes, it was. We wanted to let you know that we're selling raffle tickets. You can buy one raffle ticket for $25, or you can buy 5 for $100. So you get one freebie in there. And some of the prizes that we are offering are generously donated from Mayan Cafe as a dinner for 8 to 10 people here in the museum. You'll have the museum all to yourself, and you'll get a private curated tour through the exhibitions that are here. And
does that include the Mayan Cafe lima beans?
Oh my gosh, yes. How could it not include the Mayan Cafe lima beans?
Perfect, I'm in.
And you have a full year to redeem it, so you have plenty of time.
Perfect. Another raffle ticket prize this year is Hermitage Farm. And this is an amazing place in Goshen, about, I'd say 25 minutes outside Louisville. Hermitage Farm is a historic farm that has been recreated as an agritourism spot. And it's really an amazing place. And you get one night in this beautiful home, which is full of amazing contemporary art, and it's beautifully restored, originally built in the 1850s, but just an amazing house. So you get a night in the house overnight. You get dinner for 4 at Barn 8, which is the fabulous restaurant at Hermitage Farm. And you get complimentary tickets to the Art Walk, which is an amazing lighting exhibit in the woods behind Barn 8. So this is a great prize, $25 tickets for an evening overnight at Hermitage Farm.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
I would like to see that Art Walk.
You need to see the Art Walk.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. So the other thing we have going is, if you remember, this is all Debbie's idea. So we also have a bourbon package for you. And the bourbon package, $25 raffle tickets, includes a bottle of the very elusive and hard to find bourbon Luke's Row. And then it also includes a bottle of 12-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. Who can pass that up? We all know how elusive Pappy is and what this value is on this prize. So we hope you would find great value in a $25 raffle ticket where you might win 2 bottles of very elusive bourbon, including 12-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. So those were our raffle prizes. We hope you'll join us in buying some. And I said the other day in an email that they make great gifts under everyone's plate at Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Why
he gives
not?
gifts for Thanksgiving.
I don't normally give gifts for Thanksgiving, but this time I will. Under the plate, a little surprise for everybody at the Thanksgiving table.
Nice.
And the raffle tickets, did you mention they're on sale till December 1st? We're going to do the drawing on December 1st, so you have some time to buy raffle tickets. And we'll be pushing it all over social media until you're sick of seeing us. And so next up, we're going to have another piece from our collectors.
Oh, right, from our private tours. These were so amazing and really a great glimpse into some works of art that were brought about to the collector's attention through Kmac Museum, and another part of our Kmac community profile, which was super fun. I hope you enjoy.
I was in the room with Governor Brown and Phyllis George, Lois Matooth, and Carol Butler when the Kentucky Art and Craft Foundation was imagined. It was shortly after the Brown administration, and during the campaign, Phyllis had noticed the crafts of East Kentucky during accompanying John and all the political campaign stops, and felt there was something there that she could contribute, something she could help Kentuckians with. So ultimately it was formed. And
Phyllis George Brown, who was the governor's wife, asked my wife Mary if she would get together a board and be the chairman of the board and start something called the Kentucky Arts and Crafts Foundation. I've seen the evolution of this organization over a period of 40 years, and it's changed a lot, particularly about, 8 years ago when Aldi came. And it became much more of an educational organization than an art sales organization. What it did for me was that it didn't, I was not buying stuff from the museum, but I was very much influenced by the artists that they had there. We owe them as a team a lot for what they've done with art education, and there's nothing else like it in Kentucky, or even regionally that I know of. I'm excited that what the leadership has been doing right now, getting this next step after all these departure. And I think you're doing something that's really right, and keep it up.
For me, one of the things that I find intriguing about Kmac is how it combines the art of craft, the art of process, and the art of materials. One of the wonderful things about Kmac is that artists do come to Louisville, and it's a wonderful opportunity for artists and people here to understand and get to know other perspectives from around the world. It's also wonderful from the fact that people from around the world come here and take a little piece of Louisville back out with them.
You know, there's always kind of an interplay with the origin of the museum, which is a little bit more on the craft side. So a lot of attention paid to the process of creating art in the first place. So I really like that kind of correspondence or dialogue, I think, between the initial mission and then I think this very contemporary, leading edge kind of a approach that the museum has taken. Every time we shift in exhibition, we attract sometimes a really different crowd of people, which I also think is really, really cool. It's almost like I think Kmac is almost like a record player, and we're quite often putting a new record on. And sometimes we're playing jazz, and sometimes we're playing, bluegrass. And each time we're drawing a different audience who is especially attracted to that form of music, if you'll let me play that analogy out.
Everything has to change. If it stays stagnant, things have to change. In order to grow, you have to change. I go all the time. They've helped to promote that, like Hannah Drake now, they just had Hannah Drake there. And she's definitely a person that's pushing for everything here in the city. Jalen Stewart, and she's a wonderful young artist.
I think it's been wonderful to have Kmac across the street from us. We are sort of simpatico spirits, and we encourage each other to carry on and do the best we can. And we've done a magnificent job, the two of us, I think. Quite proud of all of that. It certainly gives plenty of space, exhibiting space, and it is broken up into kind of 3 areas if you wanted to do 3 different ideas at one time. And it lends itself well to exhibiting just one show and on all 3 floors. It's a comfortable walk up the stairs and down. I think it works well.
I love the mission of the museum, where the direction it's taking, and there's no place like it in Louisville or even around the region.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Carpenter Beams. I have the great honor of serving as president of the board of Kmac Museum. Thank you for taking part in our virtual Vernassage. I really want to acknowledge the amazing work of Debbie and Chris, our tireless chairs, and the entire virtual Vernassage committee. Joey and Ramona, your work has been beautiful putting these shows together with Jordan Nasser and the Land is Photographic exhibition. Incredibly moving and very provocative. What both of these exhibitions strike me with, however, is our need to come together as a community. The world has become very small, as we've seen in the last several months. We need each other, and we need art. It is our way of expressing pain, processing sorrow, celebrating joy, whether it's written, painted, sculpted, photographed. Art is our way of saying, I am here. Kmac is devoted to the idea of connecting people to art and creative practice, and we do that through so many ways, whether it's engagement with artists and artist talks, through events that bring the community together like Kmac Couture or virtual Vernassage, poetry slams, as you heard from Lance, incredible education outreach, which touches so many students a year through field trips and camp boxes. Kmac is working tirelessly to continue to bring people together through art, to process, to express, to celebrate. And we need your engagement with us. Your support of Kmac Museum makes all the difference for us. So again, I want to thank you for being part of our night, and thank you in advance for your ongoing support. Any ideas, any wishes, any thoughts that you'd like to share with us, please know we're here. This museum is the community's museum, and we can pivot and we can be creative and we can be accessible to everyone to enjoy. So thank you again for making this a wonderful night. Take care, stay safe, wear a mask.
And we're back live now, and thank you, Teresa, for all your leadership as president of the board, especially through this challenging year. I just want to take a moment to thank Joey for all of his work, unbelievable work in putting these shows together. And the challenges of doing it in 2020 are quite immense, and so many, many thanks to you.
Well, thank you all for hosting our Vernissage. And thank you to all the artists, Ramona and her 5 collaborators. Also to Jordan. I'd also like to thank the James Cohen Gallery and the Not Edgy Gallery in Los Angeles for helping us put together this exhibition and bring a pretty large amount of Jordan's work to the museum, opening December 5th. So thank you to all the artists and everyone that's helped us and the museum.
Thank you, Joey. And now I am going to read off some awesome comments that you all were sending in. I know you may have had a little technical difficulty posting some comments, but we appreciated seeing them all. From Aldi Milliken. Does anyone know Aldi?
We love Aldi. Hi, Aldi.
Really? Oh, that guy. Yeah, he said, spread love. So that was a nice comment. Thank you for that. Julie Bowie, she said a couple of nice things. She said, Kmac has the coolest gifts, which is true. Julia Comer, shout out to you. She also asked a question. Are any of the craft gifts that we showed in an earlier segment on display at the museum? There are some down there in the shop, and so they can show you what that's about, so you could see them if you come in. Angela Hagan wrote, love this discussion, next best thing to being there.
Yes.
And Angela, yes, we wish we all could be here for sure. And thank you for that comment. Lori Davenport, I just had to shout out to her because she just says, say hello to everyone. So
we love Lori. Hi, Lori.
And Ramona wrote something more profound. Her comments were very, very good. She said, art in some way can motivate us to act, which we thought was a very good comment for the night. And then Julia Comer said, in responding to some of Ramona's interview, that was so profoundly human. Thank you, Ramona.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, as we are winding down the hour, I hope it's been about an hour, right? We just want to say thank you again for joining us. 2020, of course, has had many challenges. It has for all of us, including Kmac. We feel like Kmac does have a special place in the city in that we can be a part of bringing downtown back. We always want Kmac to be a welcoming place, a place of diversity and of inclusion, and we feel like that's a very important thing for Kmac to be, a place for art for everyone. So we hope that you will come down and enjoy Kmac. We do want to let you know that in the past 24 hours, Kmac has gone to, in order to sort of protect everyone, we're open by appointment. And that will be going on, I suppose, until, oh no, we're getting away. We're not open by appointment.
Breaking news.
We're still open, regular hours.
Limited to 20 people.
We're limited to 20 people, thank you, Michelle. So we're not open by appointment, we're open regular hours. And yeah, so come on down. Come on down and have a coffee in the shop and do some shopping and see some great art. And don't sit on the furniture like we did. And don't lay down in the bed, as inviting as it may be.
Right, there's that. So we also want to thank our sponsors tonight. Thank you so much to all of you. And please bear with us because the thank yous are so important. Christopher Welsh Designs, come on, he made this night happen, everyone. Huge kudos to Christopher Welsh Designs. Essential Media, thank you for all you did to put together all the packages for what we have. Thank you to Chenoweth and Tyler Allen, Stephanie and George Barrett. Stephanie, you were going to send in some comments, and we were looking forward to those, but maybe we'll talk about that later. Christina Carter, Gina and Michael Del Negro, Marlene and David Grissom, Melissa Rose, and Angela and Ken Hagen.
Wow, that's great.
I want to thank our staff, because these are very Herculean exhibitions sometimes to put together, and we're about halfway there with Jordan's, but we finished Ramona's. So I want to thank everybody on staff too who helped really put all this together. A lot of construction. These are all new walls that were built to make Jordan's light boxes. So I want to thank
It is interesting when you come to a museum, you don't really necessarily always realize the work that goes into putting up these exhibits. That they literally are erecting walls. It's as if you're renovating a museum each time you put together an exhibit. It's pretty unbelievable when you think about it. I also want to thank a few sponsors as well. Wonderful Daniel May, thank you. Karen and Trace Mayer, thank you. Lee and Chad Middendorf, thank you very much. Al Shands, what will we do without you? We love you, Al. Kathy and Matt Watkins, of course. USA Image, and we also want to thank Debbie and Stuart Mitchell for their sponsorship as well.
Oh, and so we have lots of thank yous. I am so sorry. We are especially trying to thank Chris and Teresa Carpenter-Bean. She did so much in putting the video production together and getting us to all the people who are helping us bring this to you tonight. So thank you. A special shout out to her too. And then we need to thank, well, we already mentioned Jordan, obviously, Ramona, Lindsay, and all of her collaborators, and Atlantic No. 5 for all the delicious food that some of you all received.
That's
I
right.
hope you loved it. And Old Town Liquors.
Yes, Old Town Liquors. If you had the wine combo, that was specially curated by Old Town Liquors for tonight's dinner. We also want to thank our raffle ticket sponsors, Mayan Cafe, Hermitage Farm in Barn 8, and also Stuart Mitchell, who donated the amazing bourbon combo.
And lastly, we were going to thank the staff, but we can thank the staff too. And Michelle Staggs, our director, Joey Yates, Amy Parrish, who worked tirelessly on this, Chris Pettit, and all of the hardworking staff here. It is a labor of love, as everyone knows who's been down here and a part of it. So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for joining us for Vernissage 2020. Yay. Maybe we'll see you sitting down at a table having dinner for the next Vernissage. Thanks. Good night.